Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with Part 3, Elias Ashmole Esq. of Masonic Orders of Fraternity by Manly P. Hall. Elias Ashmole Esq. Unlike most students of abstract subjects, Elias Ashmole, 1617 to 1692, was a man of methodical mind and kept a detailed diary of the events of his life. He tells us, for example, that he was born on the 23rd of May, according to his good mother, at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mr. William Lilly, the leading astrologer on the day, later recounted the nativity of his friend Ashmole and decided that the exact time, due to the discrepancy between local clocks, was 3 hours, 25 minutes, and 9 seconds a.m. Such niceties of accuracy indicate the thoroughness of Ashmole's mind. The outstanding English antiquarian of his generation, Ashmole was the son of a saddler. To sketch his career, he became solicitor, was appointed commissioner of excise, and was commissioned captain of horse. His interest in astrology was aroused by Sir George Wharton and William Lilly. He was a high favor in the court of Charles II, was made Windsor Herald, commissioner, comptroller, and accountant general of excise, commissioner for Suriname, and comptroller of the White Office. He was nominated for the office of Garter King of Arms, which he declined in favor of Sir William Dugdale, whose daughter Ashmole married after the death of his second wife. In 1677, he presented to the University of Oxford the Ashmolean Museum, the first public collection of curiosities in the kingdom. In 1679, he lost by fire a collection of 9,000 coins, a fine library, and many valuable antiques. In 1682, the University of Oxford, having prepared a building for their reception, Ashmole deposited there his principal collection of coins, medals, etc., and at his death, further enriched the museum with a valuable bequest of books and manuscripts. Elias Ashmole Esq., courtesy of the British Museum. From his diary, we learn that Ashmole was associated with astrologers, Kabbalists, Rosicrucian apologists, suspected members of Francis Bacon's secret society, alchemists, early Freemasons, fellows of the Royal Society, and the groups which led to the founding of that society. He was the outstanding example of the interlocking and overlapping affiliations of certain 17th century esotericists. A few extracts will indicate the scope and significance of these acquaintanceships. June 16, 1647. Gave thanks to God that his fortunes then permitted him to devote his time and effort to study. June 6, 1648. Having studied medical herbs, he went a-simpling with Dr. Carter. August 1st, 1649. Attended the astrologers' feast at Painter's Hall, where he dined. August 31, 1649. The astrologers feasted again. August 8th, 1650. Another astrologer's feast at 2 p.m., at which time he was chosen steward for the following year. April 3rd, 1651. Mr. William Backhouse wished Ashmole to call him father thereafter. June 10, 1651. Mr. William Backhouse told Ashmole that he need be his son because he had communicated so many secrets to him. August 14, 1651. Astrologers feasted again at same place. September 22, 1651. Mr. Vaughan finished the cuts for Ashmole's great alchemical compilation, Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. Apparently Vaughan was working in the home of Elias in Blackfriars. October 20, 1651. Mr. Lilly gave him several astrological manuscripts. March 1st, 1652. Began the study of Hebrew with Rabbi Solomon Frank. Next day, had a bad headache. January 13, 1653. Father Backhouse lay sick in the Fleet Street, and fearing that he would not recover, communicated to Ashmole as a legacy, in syllables, the true matter of the Philosopher's Stone. May 19, 1657. Traveled with Mr. Dugdale. August 21, 1660. Presented his 3 books to the king. January 15, 1661. Was admitted as a member of the Royal Society at Gresham College. May 16, 1661. Was granted arms. July 9, 1669. Made Doctor of Physics at Oxford. May 8, 1671. Presented his great book on the Order of the Garter to the king. August 20, 1671. He received Dr. D's original books and papers. July 1st, 1674. Received a gold chain and medal from the King of Denmark. Naturally, Ashmole would not have entrusted too much to a written diary, but the reference to having received the true matter of the Philosopher's Stone from Father Backhouse indicates that this obscure alchemist had made Ashmole his philosophical heir, which was according to the rules of the alchemistical and Rosicrucian schools. The circumstance seems to have bore fruit, and may explain the authorship of a work which appeared anonymously at the expense and trouble of Ashmole. About 5 years after he published the first part of his Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum, Ashmole made public the works of an anonymous adept under the title The Way to Bliss. In the preface, the true author is described as an Englishman, one of the Anonymi. The book is the true offspring of its secret author, and reveals itself sufficiently legitimate, though the true father thereof be as yet unknown. Apparently, 3 grains of the Philosopher's Stone were secreted in the original manuscript, sealed between 2 leaves of paper. Ashmole claimed to possess a true copy, and implied that an incorrect version was being circulated under the title The Wise Man's Crown, or Rosicrucian Physic. The Way to Bliss is a curious production which exhibits considerable scholarship and acquaintance with obscure authors. An interesting reference to the Adepts occurs on page 17. There is a nation of wise men, dwelling in a soul as much more blessed than yours, as yours is than theirs. That is, as they bide underground and you upon the face thereof, so these men inhabit the edge and skirt of heaven. They daily see and work many wondrous things, which you never saw nor made, because you never mounted so high to come among them. Compare with quotations from John Hayden in section 3 of this work, Orders of Universal Reformation, page 49. The anonymous master then refers to the secrecy and discretion practiced by those who understood the true mystery of the stone. First, they hid themselves in low and untrodden places, to the end they might be free from the power of princes and the eyes of the wicked world. And then they wrote their books with such a wary and well-fenced style, so overcast with dark and sully shadows, and sly pretense of likes and riddles, drawn out of the mist of deep knowledge and learning, that it is impossible for any but the wise and well-given to approach or even come near the matter. There have been several references to Ashmole's association with the Society of Astrologers and its festivities. Their assemblies have been dismissed by most authorities as conventions of the credulous. There are grounds, however, for suspecting that the astronomers were concerned with more serious business than fan-tailed comets. Christopher Frederick Nicolai, See Origin and History of Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry. Summarizes the aim and purpose of the Society of Astrologers thus: its object was to build the House of Solomon of the New Atlantis in the literal sense, but the establishment was to remain as secret as the island of Ben Salem. That is to say, they were to be engaged in the study of nature, but the instruction of its principles was to remain in the society in an esoteric form. These philosophers presented their idea in a strictly allegorical method. First, there were the ancient columns of Hermes, by which Iamblichus pretended that he enlightened all the doubts of Porphyry. You then mounted by several steps to a checkered floor, divided into 4 regions to denote the 4 superior sciences, after which came the types of the 6 days' work, which expressed the object of the society and which were the same as those found on an engraved stone in my possession. Mackey was of the same mind when he wrote, but the more immediate effect of the Romance of Bacon was the institution of the Society of Astrologers, of which Elias Ashmole was a leading member. This Masonic historian adds that the astrologers met at Mason's Hall because many of the members were also members of the Masons' Company. This may be a coincidence, but it throws light on a dim period of Masonic history. The title page of the 1614 edition of Lord Bacon's Advancement of Learning contains many symbols of Masonic interest. 2 pyramidal columns are supported each by 3 globes. The symbolic title page of the first part of Bacon's Insaceratio Magna. At the beholder's left is the column of the sciences, identified with the University of Oxford. Above it is the sun, over which is placed the sphere of the mundane, or visible, world. At the right is the column of philosophy, identified with the University of Cambridge. Above it is the moon, over which is the intellectual or invisible world. Both columns are supported by Lord Bacon's books. The intellectual column is shaded, signifying obscure and hidden matters or those beyond the immediate grasp of mankind. The 2 globes above are united by the clasped hands, familiar to all students of Masonic symbols. Between the columns is a curtain bearing the title of the book, with the name and honors of the author. Below, framed by the columns, is Bacon's symbolic ship sailing the great sea of learning. In the Novum Organum, the columns again occur, but in this case they are more conservative and resemble closely those which appear in the rituals of the lodge. In Ashmole's diary, there are direct references to Freemasonry, including the dates of his own meetings with the Brethren. October 16, 1646. At 4:30 p.m., Ashmole was made a Freemason at Warrington in Lancashire. March 10, 1682. He received a summons to appear at a lodge to be held the next day at Mason's Hall in London. March 11, 1682. He went about noon and was admitted to the Fellowship of Freemasons by Sir William Wilson, Knights Templar. 5 other brothers were mentioned by name. Ashmole writes, I was the senior fellow among them, it being 35 years since I was admitted. They dined at the Half Moon Tavern in Cheapside, at a noble dinner prepared at the charge of the new accepted Masons. Robert Freck Gould quotes the following from a letter written to him by Albert Pike. I cannot conceive of anything that would have induced Ashmole, Mainwaring, and other men of their class to unite themselves with a lodge of working Masons, except this, that as the alchemist, hermeticist, and Rosicrucians had no association of their own in England or Scotland, They joined the Masonic lodges in order to meet one another without being suspected, and I am convinced that it was the men who inherited their doctrine who brought their symbols into Masonry, but kept the Hermetic meaning of them to themselves. To these men we owe, I believe, the master's degree. The substitute word means the creative energy from the Father, the Demiurgos, and Hiram, I think, was made the hero because his name resembled Hermes, the master of the lodge, the divine word, the Egyptian Thoth, the Mercury of the alchemist. Masonic Celebrities, Albert Pike, by Robert Fred Gould, reprinted from Ars Quarter Corona to Rum. The initiation of Elias Ashmole has long been considered an important Masonic landmark, and he is often referred to as the first gentleman not associated with the building arts to be accepted into the craft. As he made no mention of the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, it is assumed that they did not exist in his time. Ashmole's huge volume, Order of the Garter, proved beyond question his ability as a historian, and it is reported that he contemplated a work of equal proportion on the ancient Society of Freemasons. Unfortunately, the design was never perfected, but he left imitations that a considerable history worth compiling existed. To what degree these records related only to guild masonry is uncertain, but there was a tradition to the effect that from the time of St. Alban, 4th century AD, charters and other extraordinary marks of royal favor was bestowed upon the builders. Its affairs, however, did not always run smoothly, for in the 3rd year of the reign of King Henry VI, 1421 to 1471, the Societies of Masons was abolished by an act of Parliament. Yet, even before this act was repealed, the king and several of his principal courtiers became fellows of the order. This research was contained in a letter written by Dr. Knipe of Christ Church, Oxford, and addressed to the publisher of Ashmole's Life, quoted by Mackey in an Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. As the king or his nobles were not practicing stonemasons, it is evident that certain persons were accepted prior to Ashmole. The philosopher John Locke published in 1753 the copy of an English document believed to have been written by King Henry VI. It refers directly to Masonry and contains the following curious fragment. Question: where did Masonry begin? Answer: it began with the first men of the East, who existed before the first men of the West, and going westward, Masonry brought all comforts to ignorant savages who were not awake to these things. Ashmole associated with astrologers, alchemists, and Freemasons, and the regard in which he was held is evident from the number of books and pamphlets dedicated to him. In 1650, he published the Fasciculus Chemicus by Dr. Arthur Dee, the son of the learned old John Dee. With this tract was combined a similar one by an unknown author in the midst of the Masonic muddle of that period. Therefore, a group of men, remembered only by the general public as horoscope mongers and almanac peddlers, were bound together to fulfill or at least perpetuate Bacon's dream of the philosophic empire. There are numerous accounts indicating that astrologers and alchemists developed a sudden and remarkable interest in Freemasonry. The lodges became so crowded with intellectuals that as early as 1646, there were Masonic meetings in London without even one stonemason being present. From Occulta Philosopha, Frankfurt, 1613, Materia Prima, the Hermetic rebus by which is shown the birth of the adept within the philosophic egg. It has been a mistake to disregard this influx of Rosicrucian apologists and operative Hermetic philosophers. Thomas Norton, who lived during the 15th century, alluded to Freemasons in his Ordinal of Alchemy, Robert Flood used language suggesting his acquaintance with the craft and is believed to have formed a society which was divided into degrees with certain rituals. The Masonic Company of London kept a copy of the charges presented by Flood for their consideration. Thomas Bond, the alchemist, seems also to have had Masonic affiliations. The accompanying figure from Occulta Philosopha, edition of 1613, belongs in a series of engravings prepared to illustrate the chemical secrets of Basil Valentine. The symbol is described as representing the materia prima, or the first matter of the stone. The two-headed human figure, bearing the tablet inscribed Rebus, a kind of periodic riddle, holds in one hand a compass and in the other a square. General Pike, see Morals and Dogma, describing this device, writes that the compass, as the symbol of the heavens, represents the spiritual, intellectual, and moral portion of this double nature of humanity, and the square, as the symbol of the earth, its material, sensual, and baser portion. The arrangement indicates that the compass takes the place of the sun and the square substitutes for the moon. The union of these two instruments in three positions, in the 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, therefore equal or stand for the Hermetic marriage of the sun and moon. The symbols and allegories of the Hermetic Societies contributed to the moral and spiritual enrichment of 17th century English Freemasonry, and prepared the way for the new Masonry revealed in the following century through the literary activities of Drs. Anderson and Desaguliers. John Aubrey, antiquary and Fellow of the Royal Society, wrote his memoirs between 1656 and 1691, but they were not published until 1847 under the title The Natural History of Wiltshire. Aubrey alluded to a great convention of accepted Masons to be held at St. Paul's Church, May 18, 1691, at which time Sir Christopher Wren, the celebrated architect, was to be adopted as a brother. It is probable that Wren was an accepted Mason in spite of the doubts expressed by the Masonic historian Robert Frank Gould. Dr. Richard Rawlinson, in the biographical notes prefixed to his edition of Ashmole's Antiquities of Berkshire, borrowed Masonic references from Aubrey's manuscript. Adopted Masons, accepted Masons, or Freemasons, according to Rawlinson, are known to one another all over the world by certain signs and watchwords, known to them alone. They have several lodges in different countries for their reception, and when any of them fall into decay, the brotherhood is to relieve him. The manner of their adoption or admission is very formal and solemn, and with the administration of an oath of secrecy, which has had a better fate than all other oaths, and has been ever most religiously observed, nor has the world been yet able, by the inadvertency, surprise, or folly of any of its members, to dive into this mystery or make the least discovery. This quotation concerning Masonry in Aubrey's memoirs was partly derived from the works of Sir William Dugdale, 1605 to 1686. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.